Gamers, welcome back to my channel, Rift VA. Today we're going to be talking about drive discs in Zenless Zone Zero, what they are, and why they are so important to get. So jumping right in, talking about the basics of what are drive discs. These are basically the pieces you put together to build a character, to give them all the stat increases and make them goated. They're basically like artifacts in Genshin Impact or relics in Honkai Star Rail. Now the difference is, and they have a few unique things about them, there's actually 6 slots per character when you go to equip these on a character. And the set bonuses come in 2 different things. You can do a 2-piece and a 4-piece. So that sounds very similar to Genshin, but you have 6 slots per character. So you can actually do some cool things where you can combine a 4-piece effect, but then also still have another 2-piece effect going for you. So it sounds like it's gonna be a lot of fun building characters and seeing all the mix match things you can do, because you can still get the full 4-piece effect and still have a 2-piece effect. Now you could also just do 3 2-piece effects if the scenario arises where you want to do that. So I do like the versatility that can have with different set bonuses. So jumping into a little bit more advanced stuff, looking at the pieces themselves, I'm not going to look at any specific drive discs, but when you have individual pieces, you're going to have 1 main stat and up to 4 substats, so very similar to their previous games. Now the main stat obviously is going to depend on which slot it occupies, so there's actually a few examples here back on Zenless Lab looking at main stats. So in slot 1 you're going to have flat HP, that doesn't change. Slot 2 is going to be attack, and slot 3 is going to be defense. Now with slots 4, 5, and 6, this is where things get interesting. So in slot 4 we have HP, attack, and defense percent, crit rate, and crit damage. So obviously most characters are probably going to want to go after the crit, but there will be some, like maybe healers want the HP, whatever. Now slot 5 you're going to have HP, attack, and defense again, but then we have a new stat that's unique to Zenless Zone Zero, which is pen ratio percent. I'm going to assume pen stands for penetration. And then we also have elemental damage bonuses. So this reminds me of like your goblets in Genshin Impact. Do note that the elemental damage is random and can only roll one of the 5 elements available in the game. And then in slot 6, we have HP, attack, defense as usual. Anomaly mastery, which is another Zenless Zone Zero unique stat, which from what I've learned is very similar to how elemental mastery works in Genshin. The more elemental mastery you have in Genshin, the better or more effective the reactions you do in Genshin will be, like more damage in some scenarios. Similarly, anomaly mastery in Zenless Zone Zero is going to affect how fast you build up, let's say, fire anomaly with a fire character as you deal attacks. If you have more anomaly mastery, you're going to build that up way quicker. There also is energy regen as a main stat, and impact percent, which is the 3rd unique Zenless Zone Zero stat. So pen ratio, anomaly mastery, and impact percent. Now looking at the substats for what you can get, all the available substats are all right here. I'll move this up so you can see it. You got your, of course, flat HP, attack, and defense, which nobody wants, unless, you have characters that scale on it, but even then still you want the percent because it's a lot better. And then you have your crit rate, your crit damage, you have flat pen or penetration, and then anomaly mastery. Now, immediately what I think of when I see this, because you can't get pen percent in a substat, I don't think that necessarily means it's automatically bad or has to be automatically written off, because you can only have 1 artifact with the main stat of pen ratio, because it's only in slot 5. So I think similarly to elemental mastery in Genshin, we don't roll elemental mastery percent on substats in Genshin, and even the main stats aren't a percent. But just 20, an additional 20 is a big difference for your reactions, whereas flat HP, attack, and defense are very, very minimal. So I think it'll still be good, especially there are probably going to be characters that scale on something like pen ratio, similar to what we see in Honkai Star Rail, where Firefly scales on break effect. You don't really care too much about crit. My point is that pen will still be good for characters that want it. And the same thing with Anomaly Mastery, just for anyone, maybe characters will scale on that as well as we get into the game. So as with all other things, the characters, weapons, you have 3 different rarities: S tier, A tier, and B tier. Now, this brings me into actually how you acquire drive discs. How do you actually get these things? There's an in-game shop called the Music Store, or also known as Bardic Needle. And what you're going to be doing in here is doing a thing known as drive tuning. How does drive tuning work? Basically, you're going to use plating agents to do tuning, which produce different drive discs while playing different tunes. The Music Store will level up upon reaching certain internet levels. Now, what is an internet level? You can think of internet level kind of similar to your account level or adventure rank, but it still is unique in kind of its own thing. You're going to want to obtain what are called internet credits through doing various activities to increase your internet level. You can do that through things like your commissions, daily commissions. There are even things called rally commissions. You get a lot of those from NPCs. So really just focus on meeting NPCs, doing things for them. You'll get Internet credits that way. You can also get the Internet credits through VR training and Hollow Zero investigation, which kind of starts to get into Zenless Zone Zero's endgame content. So going back to drive tuning, as you increase your Internet level, more advanced tuning options and functions will be unlocked. Beginner tuning consumes crystallized plating agents, intermediate tuning consumes ether plating agents, and advanced tuning consumes military plating agents. When the music store reaches level 2, unlock track settings, where the drop rate for the selected drive disc set will increase. Now when the music store reaches level 4, you will unlock partitioning, where tuning will produce drive discs of the selected partition, but will cost more plating agents each time. When the music store reaches level 6, unlock main stat selection, where tuning will produce drive discs of the selected set, slot, and main stat, but will additionally cost 1 tuning calibrator each time. Now what this reminds me a lot of, and you probably already know where I'm going with this, is the self-modeling resin in Honkai Star Rail. The very rare resource, but then we also have relic remains we can use to still not customize the main stat, but still focus on one set. And in Genshin's case, it's the strong box for artifacts. So this is gonna be a big deal, especially in the end game, for really trying to find that god roll, getting all your crit rate, crit damage, or whatever it be for that character. So now I just want to talk about some general tips when it comes to drive discs. That way on day 1, you know exactly what to do and kind of follow a format for getting to the end game and leveling up your characters as fast as possible. So when transitioning from early game to late game, since drive discs are similar to how artifacts are in Genshin and relics in Star Rail, you're going to want to follow a very similar format, which is when you get these B tier and A tier drive discs, you don't want to hyper invest in these because you want to be resourceful, right? You want to use what you have. Like, yes, once you get these B and A tier drive discs, you do want to equip, you know, the right main stat for whatever character you're using, but I wouldn't heavily invest in them because eventually, when you do get to the later game, you're really targeting those S tier drive discs, and you want to use those A and B tiers as leveling material to upgrade your S tier, which is where you actually do start hyper investing and getting your good builds and whatnot. So when looking at the early game, really just focus on getting commissions done to raise your Internet level, focus on the story. There's a lot of other stuff that will be available that you can do. And you should be able to get through most of the content early to mid game with even just unleveled drive discs. So what it all comes down to is thinking about horizontal investment, not vertical. Vertical investment is really for late game, end game, and really making your characters absolutely cracked. Now, that being said, I would still focus maybe on a select 3 or maybe another set, so up to 6 characters that you do focus on, and kind of leaving other characters to the curb for at least the early game, just to have 1 or 2 teams that you can work with. That way, if you do get hit with something that's a little bit more difficult, you can have something ready for that. So really, what I'm going to be doing personally day 1 and probably just week 1 and week 2 is just equipping my B tier and eventually A tier drive discs that just have the right main stats I'm looking for, like if it's crit rate, crit damage, anomaly mastery, if the character wants that. That's what I'm personally going to be doing, and until I get those S tier drive discs, that's when I'll start hyper investing, trying to get the right substats now, and using the A and B tier to kind of level into them with the drive tuning process. Well, that's everything I have for today's video. If you did find this video helpful, please like and subscribe. It will really help me out a lot. And if you like other gacha content in general, like Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, please do check out Gacha Interact, where I co-host with my friend Vixen, and we have a lot of fun talking about the games over there. Well, with that out of the way, I'll see you guys in the next video.